Good evening and welcome to another community forum. I'm your guest, Byron Campbell. Of course, my co-host is Chris Diali. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, Byron, and very good evening to our viewers and listeners. Again, we're happy to be here and to discuss things that we believe, could give a different view and stimulate thought and discussion.
Absolutely. Well, we have an interesting program this evening. We have a special guest, no other than Chester Humphrey. We'll be discussing politics, we'll be discussing labor issues, international, regional issues. But before, we're going to take a short break here. Viewers, please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Community Forum comes to you in association with the Grenada Development Bank.
The choice to finance your education is clear. Try the Grenada Development Bank Won't You Dare. Our special student loan was designed with care for your growth, development, and welfare. This is how champions are made. Take on that challenge. Don't ever be afraid. Our special student loan will come to your aid with 100% of your study costs being paid. Vulnerability is but a temporary condition, and conquering it is strictly ambition. You can secure victory despite your position with a loan for accommodation, books, and tuition. We see your potential. We notice your drive. So on your marks, get set. Let your dreams come alive. Don't let hurdles of doubt get in your way, because you are the future. Contact GDB today. Our special student loan is just one application away. Grenada Development Bank. Development through financing.
Welcome back to Community Forum. Chris, and of course this is our segment where we have current affairs chit-chat, okay? The past week, one good thing I would tell you, we seem to have had some reprieve in the heat wave. We've had some rain, so farmers are happy. Not enough, but we're happy. Mm-hmm. You know, we give thanks.
Could have been worse.
It could have been worse, so we're happy about that. Sports, we've had Grenada, our women footballers have been doing very well. They've beat Bahamas both overseas and here. They're leading in the division that they are under.
Their group.
Their group.
Mm-hmm.
We're happy about that. They're doing very well. Still with sports, I understand that the US, the CONCACAF League, had a claim against Grenada because inadequacy of the playing field. I think this is something
a fine?
A fine, yes. So it's something that we need to look at and to make sure that we're up to the standards.
Well, I mean, that there's an indictment to a certain degree on GFA and of course the Ministry of Sports who, through the stadium, will make sure that things are up to international standards. Same thing goes on with cricket.
Cricket, yeah. Chris, I don't always comment on religious matters. I tend to leave it aside, but
You're laughing, Byron.
Yeah, laughing. Life-changing ministries. Now, I understand the Ministry of Education refused to give them permission to use the auditorium. I don't know the reasons, but GBS auditorium. But I've been seeing some of their happenings. The leader claims that she's been to heaven, she's been appointed by God, she deals in the supernatural. Look, Chris, there's an incident where she's waiting at the airport for an individual and she predicts that the individual will see God when she arrives. And lo and behold, the individual sees God in herself. I mean, where are we going with this? But the thing about it, in these congregations, they have children. And my concern is about that kind of falsehood. What is it doing, that indoctrination? What is it doing to the children, you know? But clearly, I would say the ministry had good cause, good reason to decline permission to use the facilities.
I mean, if the particular religious organization is promoting things that seem to be on the far extreme, it almost speaks about fraud if money is involved and what is happening there. And the issue is the gullibility of our people under this religious context.
Yeah.
I mean, the Bible speaks about that, false prophets and all of that. So at the end of the day, the government has the has the responsibility
Yeah.
to protect its citizens from things
Yeah.
that they see as being, whether it's in religion or not, that seems to be, not proper in what is being said. So I wouldn't opinionate on what the government have done from the standpoint of not giving permission, but if they feel that there is something that is not totally right, they have a need to interject and do what they have to do. I mean, I see you laughing, Byron, so obviously you think this is comical, but
No, it's not comical,
but
but
for some
I-
people,
I-
for some people who believe in this thing, they could really go to the extreme of it,
and they are going to,
and they could exploit people
and they
as
are-
well.
Exactly, and that's
And this is what you have to.
and that's my concern, Chris.
If I you could get involved in things like that.
Of course,
I mean,
course,
that is
it's so blatant.
responsibility
It's
on the- for you.
Chris, and when our special guest comes on, Chester, there's going to be, but the UN, our PM has been to the UN General Assembly, he addressed the Assembly, and both himself and others, including Mia Motley, I think she was the most dynamic here in terms of, again, making that call for against the illegal economic blockade on Cuba and the type of restrictions now imposed on Venezuela. They've been making this clarion call. They've been part of the region and Venezuela, and Cuba still being called a harboring terrorism and ridiculous things. But I have some questions for Chester when it comes. But I thought our leaders, the Caribbean leaders, did very well, including ours, in terms of articulating this issue, in addition to the whole climate crisis issues. So
Well, Byron, that Cuba thing, and I know more recently Venezuela,
yeah,
is such an archaic form of international foreign policy.
yeah,
And it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It has not worked as far as most of these blockades have shown.
Yeah.
Cuba
Yeah.
have continued to progress and is one of
but
the
it's
top
extreme. But it's
countries in
because
medical
it
research.
affects trade.
No, I agree.
It
And
has it affects.
I don't think the U.S., in my view,
Yeah.
I think it's an old game they're playing for
Yeah.
votes
Yeah.
in the Cuban
Cuban
thing in
fraternity,
Miami
yes,
in particular.
yes,
But
yeah.
at the end of the day, this is a UN, United Nations organization,
Yeah.
that seems to go, in my view, as an organization of no sense from the point of view
Yeah.
that here you have, if the UN, I can't remember how much members it have, but every time they come to the vote on
Yeah.
Cuba, it's an overwhelming
No, it's only Israel and the U.S.
that will go against.
Yeah.
So, I mean, tell me
You'll have
something.
Brazil abstaining depending on who is.
Yeah, well, if we have
Who is the
100
leader there?
members,
Not now.
my thing is that at least 95 of those members will vote for the lifting of these blockades.
Yeah.
Because as far as, so
Yeah.
when you do that and these 2 or 3 members
Yeah.
dominate and
Yeah.
continue to
Yeah.
operate
Yeah.
in that sense, then you ask yourself, what is the use of the
It's the
UN?
same. It's the same issue as the Palestinian issues that
Mm-hmm.
is consistently voted on, and Israel, with the support of the United States.
Yeah, they do what they
Yeah,
want.
do what they want,
Because they have the power.
Chris, of course, big in the news yesterday is the 2023 throne speech by Her Excellency, the Governor General. I listened. I thought it was. I heard everything I wanted to hear, really. I thought it was. Everything was addressed there, whether it's climate change, whether it's agriculture, whether it's tourism, employment, the economy, youth. Everything was addressed there adequately. The question is the delivery. What was your take on the
Well,
speech?
I listened as you did.
Yeah,
I tuned in and listened carefully.
yeah,
I have a few comments. I think there were 13 pillars or 13 sections, areas they
priorities.
listed.
Yeah,
Now, every throne speech is like a strategic plan.
yes,
This is a strategy going forward that the government is going to lay, and the budget that is going to be coming shortly is going to be the operational plan, how we operationalize these ideas that we put out
Yes.
in the throne speech.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
the context.
yeah,
This one in particular, I thought there were a little too much politics in it because normally throne speeches, and I've had heard a number, is more about particular areas you're signaling for
Or
developmental
technical.
growth
Yeah.
and where you plan to go with it
Yeah.
this next year
yeah,
or
yeah,
future
yeah,
down the
yeah,
road.
yeah.
There was some of that in the throne speech, but I thought there was a lot of political overtones about what wasn't done before and what they meet. And a classic example is the energy issue. Right, the energy issue was listed as a mysterious thing, a mystery to be
yes,
unfolded
yes,
as
yes.
it relates to the reserves. No, we could go back to when NDC was in power, and Nazim Burke, who is now going to chair this committee, was very much involved in the energy issue and reserves. I think he even had some family of his from Barbados who was technically skilled and was coming to assist the government at that time. The issue wasn't whether there was deposits, hydrocarbon deposits within Grenada's context. Peter David had led a mission as Minister of Foreign Affairs where he did a redrawing of the maritime boundaries to facilitate this. Trinidad had agreed. There was a lot of discussions with the government of Trinidad and Tobago about reserves and how it's across the lines and so on. And Trinidad was doing a certain amount of drilling, parallel drilling and so on. And there was some discussions as to how we could. So when I heard the thing about the mystery, and the speech spoke about there was no documentation, the officers knew nothing about that
No
and so on,
records.
no records and so on. That was a mystery to me, quite frankly.
But you heard the leader of the opposition response. He said that it's a blatant lie. In fact, he denied it, but then the Prime Minister responded and said, well, okay, if I'm lying, give me the evidence, find it, tell me where I can find it, you know. So this political dimension of the throne speech, you said, it doesn't belong there.
Yeah, that was my thing. Now, if you want to develop energy as a strategic goal, fine. That is
Right,
the area we need to go.
Right.
But there were a number of areas I think health and wellness was very positive. They said they purchased 80 acres of land plus for the teaching hospital in Calavini. I really hope it can come off. And I am not one that believes we need another hospital, because I think the issue with hospitals in Grenada is staffing, equipment, and being able to maintain it based on the population size.
The service aspect.
Right. The chemotherapy at the hospital, I think that's a very positive thing. They said they upgraded some theaters to international standards. That is very positive. What I'm still not sure about is NHI, National Health Insurance, where that is.
There was some mention of this.
But I think they're saying they're looking for a new contract. I don't know if that is correct, but I think that is something that is more urgent than we need, and I think needs to happen quickly. The increase in broadband, I think that is an excellent thing.
Yeah.
That is something on the digital side.
Yes.
They spoke about the digitization of ID and immigration. I think that is an excellent thing as well. That continues and has done very well for taxpayers like myself and others, that you don't have to go and line up, and you need to keep pushing that. What I didn't hear on the digitization is preparation for AI and how AI is going to change our whole economies and everything, and I didn't hear nothing about that in the strategic plan. Whether we're going to have a department, a particular ministry in government dealing with AI, what is happening on the AI. So I heard very little on that, which was a little bit disappointing.
Chris, agriculture, it was more or less a continuation of last year. That World Bank project, $27 million, it hasn't delivered yet, but they indicated that it will be
But all the things I spoke on the agriculture, the rural breeding centers, additional cold storage, all of that is under the 27 million project.
The World Bank project.
The World Bank project. The interesting thing is they say they signed an MOU with St. Vincent. We don't know what is in that MOU, but and then marketing board, the re-establishment of the new entity in 2024, in Q1 in 2024. I think all of us are looking forward to what this is going to be.
But Chris, clearly we need more time to review this.
We certainly do.
This document. It'll be useful to have them to explain aspects of it. But as you rightly said, this is a preamble to the budget, and so the budget will actualize. The budget is the plan of how you're going to implement this action as stated here. Viewers, of course, Community Forum comes to you in association with the Grenada Development Bank and Allied Laboratories. We want to take a short break here, and we'll be right back with our special guest, Chester Humphrey. Stay with us.
The choice to finance your education is clear. Try the Grenada Development Bank Won't You Dare. Our special student loan was designed with care for your growth, development, and welfare. This is how champions are made. Take on that challenge. Don't ever be afraid. Our special student loan will come to your aid with 100% of your study costs being paid. Vulnerability is but a temporary condition, and conquering it is strictly ambition. You can secure victory victory despite your position with a loan for accommodation, books, and tuition. We see your potential. We notice your drive. So on your marks, get set. Let your dreams come alive. Don't let hurdles of doubt get in your way because you are the future. Contact GDB today. Our special student loan is just one application away. Grenada Development Bank. Development through financing.
Concerned about your general health and wellness?
Do you need to know your complete blood count, lipid profile, or HbA1c?
Maybe you're an athlete or work in an environment that requires regular drug screening.
Interested in STI screening? What about renal, liver, or thyroid tests?
All these tests, plus hundreds more, are available at Allied Laboratories.
At Allied Laboratories, we are committed to providing the best service with accurate results. We now have 3 fully equipped locations to better serve you. You can contact our Grand Anse branch at 403-3488. You can contact our Grenville branch at 410-3488. Or you can contact our newest addition, the Guelph branch, at 404-3488. Or send us an email.
We're taking care of Grenada.
Chris.
Welcome back to Community Forum. I have the distinct pleasure of introducing my next guest, which is past Senator Chester Humphrey, who has been President of the Senate, who has sat in the Senate for 30 plus years, Chester?
Yeah.
Chester has been, as everyone will know, an active trade unionist and have been leading the trade union movement at various levels. President of the TUC for a few terms. He was also president of the regional body of credit unions, of trade unions. And Chester has had a wealth of experience on the trade union side of the business, as well as in the Senate and what happens in the Senate, where he was for a number of years as president in the final year, in the Senate, serving in the highest office in the Grenada Senate. He has also been an activist in politics. He was part of the NGM and then went through many different political parties. So with that, I mean, I could read the bio, which will take us about 15 minutes, but I think that is enough. I think most of us know Senator Humphrey or Chester Humphrey over the years and his contribution to our society in various forms. So Chester, welcome to Community Forum. It's a pleasure to have you.
Well, thank you very much. I always held a very firm belief that we are not maximizing the use of this technology for positive purposes.
Yeah.
And there should be many more programs like this linked to our development. I mean, the country has a lot of challenges. The upsurge in crime, youth violence, the dislocation of youth, the penetration of negative culture, the overwhelming preponderance of sex and sexual messages, the public depravity that we see that is posted as culture. I mean, there's a new wave taking place now. It starts at Carnival, but I'll tell you it become the normative, where women are bearing the buttocks outside. They have all kinds of issues. It is community forums like this that should be used as an instrument to educate the public.
So let's start with minimum wage, something that I think is right up your alley.
Well,
and the government have been discussing this issue of You had a committee appointed led by Dr.
Gilchrist. Well, when I heard Dr.
and they have put
Gilchrist,
forward certain suggested rates that they want to see change in various areas.
when I heard Dr. Gilchrist was involved, I was really heartened and thought that we would have gotten a better final product. Yes, on the last occasion in 2010 or somewhere there, 12 years ago, when it was done, Glenys Roberts at the time was Minister of Labor, and she took a lot of advice. But a lot of what came out officially was rejected by some of our cabinet colleagues, primarily the then Minister of Finance, and she didn't get the support of the Prime Minister. There were a number of significant errors in that document, some of them a clear violation of signed conventions of the ILO that Grenada has signed onto, and in some aspects, certain basic principles in Grenadian law. So for example, if you look at the minimum wage here, there is discrimination based on geography. All right? The cost of living in Grenada is the cost of living universally in the state of Grenada.
Nothing to do with St. David's and St. George's.
Nothing to do with St. David's or St. George's. A person who leaves Grenville or anywhere in St. Andrew and comes to town pays the same price on the bus. If that person leaves St. George's and returns to St. Andrew, whichever part in St. Andrew, the cost is the same. A tin of corned beef in St. George, the price is no different if you were to go in Goa or if you were to go to any place else.
No, they will argue that, Chester, that the price of, apart from the 20-pound cylinder, the price of propane gas in Carriacou and Petit Martinique is much more.
No, well, there's no, except as I understand it, on some items in price, I think it's a bit lower. I believe gas in Petit Martinique may be lower than, I'm not sure about this.
No.
It's not, it's higher?
No, it's higher.
Well, then there's a transportation cost, I assume, that would have influenced
just saying
that
there's
price.
differential pricing in some things.
Well, there's differential pricing in something, but the cost of living is a universal fact. There is no significantly less cost of living if you live in St. David
versus
or St. George or St. George's, or if you live in Mamakan. Right.
And
so
the question is, why would the outer parishes be lower than St. George?
And here's the ridiculousness of this proposal.
And I know they said
here's the ridiculousness
this came
on
from
this
the last
proposal.
one.
Well, I expected a goodly doctor to be more scientific in his and more universal in his approach, more informed in his approach. As I said to you before, there is non-discrimination in employment, right? There is equal pay for equal work principle, right? That's a principle that levels off the same pay for male or female. Right? But you can't tell me simply because you're living in... Here's the ridiculousness of it. St. David is now the fastest growing tourist infrastructure in the country.
That's right.
High-end tourism is going into St. David. There are 2 facilities there that will be open within the next 60 months.
That's correct.
High-end tourism.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what therefore informs a goodly doctor that the rate of pay of a bartender in St. David, where the infrastructure now witnesses high-end tourism, must make less for the same work done than a worker who is working in St. George. So the document is really flawed and needs to be revisited. In addition to which, 10 years of a fixed income, 10 years. In addition to which, right now, the world faces an inflation, galloping inflation, unprecedented because of the NATO war in Ukraine. Yeah?
You call it a NATO war in Ukraine.
Well, what do you
fine,
think it is?
Chester. Okay, we'll come back to that. Okay, fine. Okay.
Look at all the nations who line up on one side and on the other.
And you didn't say Russia at all here.
Well, you know...
Let's not divulge.
But let's go.
Finish on minimum wage. Let's go on
You know,
minimum.
Baron, if I'm attacked while I leave here to go to my car, I have a right to defend myself.
Okay, just we'll come back to that.
You know, and particularly if I knew you're a guy who carries a gun, and you say, "Don't let me go to my car, else I'll shoot you." I won't let you go to your car, would I?
Just that's another
That's a
discussion.
discussion.
Fine,
Okay.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, the point I'm making, I kind of lost my trend of
Well,
thought.
just let me bring you on to another
The
one.
point.
I think
So-
that the magnitude of the increases, yes, it's 12 years in nothing was done.
Yeah.
But when you look at the tourism sector and what has happened in it, they are going to get some of the largest increases. So when you move from a cook and so on, and a cook assistant, what they're proposing to pay per hour is moving from around $3.75 to $9.50 an hour, 120%
Yeah,
increase.
but the hotels have been doing pretty good.
Yeah, no, so my point is, I am not objecting that minimum wage must be reviewed and must have adjustments. What is the magnitude of the increase and the possible effect it can have?
But I think it's lopsided.
On-
I don't
on
agree with you
inflation.
at all. I agree. For example, if I just pull this up on my phone here. For example, the low, in some of the trades, well,
Construction.
let me just come back a bit.
Yeah.
The unit cost of labor universally has moved away from day work to hourly work.
Okay.
In other words, you are addressing labor efficiencies,
Yeah.
right? Productivity.
It's a timeline.
It's a timeline business. I
Yes.
mean, the goodly doctor, who is an economist, must know these things.
Yeah.
In other words, this minimum wage failed to take into consideration the need to pay particular attention to the question of low productivity. And that's what paying people daily does,
Well,
right? It undermines labor discipline because people come late. When you work by the hour, right, you have a more productive game of play.
So-
Not only that, more people can find employment. So for example, take your caregiver. If the caregiver rate was an hourly rate, I could decide, well, look, I can't keep the caregiver for the whole day, so I won't fire off the caregiver because I need to. I can
You
give
pay the hours that you
I
can
can
afford.
pay you the hours from which you come into work, and this
Yeah.
is the hours that I can afford.
Yeah.
In other words, my wife could make some adjustment
Yeah.
to take some time off to reach to work a bit later, whereas going for 8, she could now go for 10. During that time, I won't have a caregiver, but I'll have a caregiver from 10 to 3 o'clock or from 10 to 4 o'clock, which would give me, the husband, time to come home. What I'm saying is, it's a backward, archaic methodology that is more fitting of a plantation economy than a modern service economy in transition.
So
This is what this
agricultural workers is to move from $6.50 to $12 per hour, 100% thereabout increase. But they also said
And they're being paid a day.
guaranteed payment for 5 hours per day.
Which is
But
60.
are they doing 5 hours work? You see, that's the question.
Well, not
Are
only
they
that, I think under the labor code-
The goodly economists must know.
Under the labor code, it poses a challenge, At this year, you could never reach 40 hours a week.
What?
And this particular 5 hours per day, all right, as a minimum, $12,
Yeah,
$60
yeah.
a day, you could never reach to the point of working 40 hours per week. And the labor code specifically talks about the payment of overtime in excess of 40 hours.
Yeah.
So even with this, when you come to negotiate
No,
with
no,
me-
no, no. Overtime is calculated on a daily basis. Overtime is not calculated on a weekly basis. So the 40
But
hour
even
doesn't.
though you,
The 40 hour here isn't relevant.
8 hours, 8 5s is 40.
Listen to me. But overtime is engaged on a daily basis.
Yeah, but you will
So-
never make it on a daily basis at 5 hours per day.
No, they said you're guaranteed that.
Yeah,
You're guaranteed
so
5 hours.
You're 5 hours, so
Right, but you might be able to work 9 hours for the day. But in the agricultural sector, which has a peculiar problem that we face, because our labor standards, our labor methodology and organization, our labor implements are hundreds of years old. Our basic implement in agriculture is still a fork, a cutlass, and a hoe, which were the basic instruments of production when we were
60 years
slaves.
ago, yeah.
So this can't, how can you produce? How can you be competitive? It's a fallacy. We perpetuate, Baron, all due respect to you, we perpetuate a fallacy in believing, we go back to the grandiose days of commodity plantation economic production.
It's not gonna
That's
happen.
not possible today, Byron. It's not going to happen. Right? And therefore you can't build state policy on that concept. And let me tell you, this labor business is fundamental to state policy in terms of its entire management of the economy, because you're talking now about a numerically large number of workers.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you pay a painter $120 a day's work for a painter, where we now have roller brushes? You've got to be kidding.
Not only that, spray.
And now you have spray. You've got to be kidding. Who climbs a ladder with a physical thing? I mean, so the goodly doctor really is out of tune. This document needs to be recalled and reworked
so the fact, hold
with
on,
a more proper understanding, Chris. And this is, I'm addressing
The
you
market
now.
is changing.
Well, not it is changing. The labor
changed.
market has changed.
Yes.
But this document does not reflect that. This document pays no regard whatever to the whole question in our economy of low productivity. Low productivity is a millstone around our neck. It drives up costs. It makes things totally inefficient.
So these are only recommendations that would be placed
No,
for
but
discussion.
no, that's not true.
This is
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
that's what it said.
Yeah, this is what
For
it said.
discussion?
Yeah,
Yeah,
for
they
discussion.
have
Well,
not passed it in
For
law yet.
discussion. So like
And
you
they
will
have to
have
table
Well, the draft that I have.
Yeah.
They had to table it in Parliament. They say they're going on for more discussions. on
Discussions.
it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, then I'm mistaken,
Yeah.
because
So
quite
you-
frankly, this document really, I mean, it's a poor effort, you know. And the problem you have when you inherit a house with so many leaks and creaks and structural problems, it's almost impossible to fix it. You know, I would have liked to see a document. In other words, when a document comes to Parliament, if there are going to be changes, the document should be so thorough that there would not be significant changes. But if Cabinet accepts this, and this is in Parliament, it tells me that the government is not serious about transformation. Because this is labor you're dealing with. It's labor that drives the economy.
Yes.
It's a wealth created by labor that gives you the capital for transformation. And so you must have a more fundamental.
So okay, so this, I
serious
want to move
document
on. I
than
want to
that.
move on, Chess. Yeah, move on a bit of politics.
So that's my
now.
criticism of the document.
No,
but if it's temporary,
Well, not temporary, but it's a
if it's-
proposal,
okay,
it's recommendations,
well then-
taken to the public for further discussions and fine-tuning.
well, then I would submit a memorandum of my
Precisely,
thing.
that's
So
excellent,
what I would
yes.
want, I wouldn't want to have to do it twice.
Yeah.
If I could get the vocals of this,
Yes.
I will just pass it through my computer and have it written up, and I will send it to the doctor.
You're using
Certain.
AI, man. Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Okay.
That's
Chess,
all
I want to move on. I
technology.
want to
It's
look
all
at
technology.
politics. Chess, you
Only
were,
the courts
Chess, you
still
were,
use
Chess, you were active in
things.
last year's election.
Very.
Your party lost.
That's right.
The party leader is on record.
Not
to
an
have
unexpected loss.
The
As far as
party
I'm
leader is on
concerned.
record to have said that this was mainly due to organizational matters. You know, work on the ground was. In hindsight, though, what is your analysis for the NNP loss at the polls?
All right, let me just say this, Baron. I'm going to be very upfront with you.
Yeah. Well, obviously.
I would not wish on a public platform
Yeah.
to express a view that is in direct contradiction
Yeah.
to what the party leader says,
Okay.
especially when there has not been, to my mind, a sufficiency of what it is and a scientific assessment of what it is, why we lost. Right? Everything else is just sheer speculation, guesstimation, and lays the basis for seriously contentious debate.
Right.
Right? There are a number of reasons why we witnessed the result that we witnessed. And I can tell you that in 2021, a committee of the party was commissioned to do an analysis of the current state of things and projections. And a comprehensive document was put forward. And if one reads that comprehensive document, one would see that the results which subsequently came was not a stranger to the document. That's the most I would say.
This was
I
not a
can't-
public document, or this
No,
was
it was not the
internal
public
document.
internal
Yeah.
document.
Yeah.
So I am not at liberty.
Okay, so that's fine.
I'm not
Just,
at liberty to
that's fine.
to
I'm going
discuss,
to
and
move
you'd
on.
appreciate that.
Yes,
So-
of course, yeah. But the
Yeah?
question, though.
So
Yeah, no, I understand that. I'm going to move on, Jess.
Right,
The question of what's been coming up, and that's his public airing, NNP convention has been in the news. Dr. Mitchell is on record saying that the fact they've lost ground, they need to regain that ground, they need to restructure, reorganize before convention is held. But the election is some 15 months ago. That's a long time. I mean,
Well,
why is there, in your opinion, a delay? Certainly, I've heard some members of the party calling for the election.
Well,
we don't know. No time frame has been set. What, in your view, is the reason for this?
well, I could only go by what is openly obvious. The Constitution of the New National Party is a public document. Thousands of people have it.
Yes.
The Constitution of the party makes no provision for holding a party convention dependent on the state of organization of the party. Right? The state of organization of the party is a subjective matter. The requirements of the Constitution is an objective matter.
Yeah.
And the Constitution lays that out. No. Are there extenuating circumstances in which a principle as laid out in the Constitution or a section of the Constitution can be, well, I won't like to say abridged, but be suspended? Obviously. If we were in a COVID situation where the country is locked down, political party can't have a convention. You follow the point I'm making? So even if the Constitution requires a convention, the overarching situation, so everything must be contextual, right? But post-election, there's been no pandemic. There have been no overarching. In other words, the party Constitution sets out its structures, it sets out its operations, it sets out its responsibility, and it sets out its duty. And it requires a convention to be held annually. The last time a convention was held was in January of 2022. So one could say, okay, COVID interrupted the 2021 election into 2022. Something was held in 2020. A convention was held in 2022, and he had to break up in accordance with the COVID regulations and so on there. But now it's 2023.
In other words, you're seeing no objective reasons why the convention is not being held.
Well, I don't see any objective.
Exactly. Fine.
Because the need to organize the party is an ongoing, and the question of how the party is organized, where the party is organized, these are subjective matters. These are not objective matters. The Constitution lays out what the objective matter is.
Just on several occasions, Dr. Mitchell has indicated, I think 2018, his desire to step down last term. Even at the results of the last election, again, he indicated clearly, formally, this is, no, that was one for the road, but after the party lost, he said, look, this is it, guys. You know, I'm preparing for a transition. Do you believe he's going to step down? And do you have a choice in candidates supporting for new leadership of the NNP?
What I can say is simply this. I know that Peter David has written the executive, indicating that he has an interest in offering himself to the members to be considered as a replacement leader. I don't know of anybody else that have made that step. Yes, you are correct. Dr. Mitchell has said on numerous occasions. In fact, there was not a rally held of the NNP during the election where he didn't make that clear.
But he said the same thing in 2018. But so the question, do you believe that he will?
Trust. Is there a trust?
That he will
Seems to be
in this time?
He's saying that, but
well,
happens.
what I could say, that's the public is judging that. But what I can say is, at the swearing in as leader of the opposition, he made it clear that he would remain as leader for about 6 months.
Okay.
I'm agreeing with you now that more time has gone, and another reason has come. And the reason being is the party isn't ready. But the question is simply this: if you light the fire, but you fail to put the pea soup on the pot, you won't have no pea soup.
Yeah.
So you have to put the pea soup on the pot. You have to get things going, you know, and you can't say, well, look, unless I get the meat, I'm putting the peas on the boil, or unless I get the blogo, I'm putting, you know, that's, so I'm saying that when one looks at the situation, well, it's a pretty subjective interpretation of what is unfolding. But he did tell the nation, he told the rank and file of the party in clear, unambiguous terms that this was his long run. In fact, the principal slogan of the election campaign became one for the road. Right?
I want to take you to another angle of this, Chester. And when you look at the NNP and the leadership, leadership was a thing before the election, young versus age, so mature
That's
leadership,
yeah.
and which one. And you get the sense that when Grenadians went to the polls and they were presented with the options for the two parties, you also got a sense that NNP, people were tired with NNP and the leadership and what was happening, and there was this fatigue issue. Hence, they went for a more young, energetic, possibly new, transformative party, and so on. Don't you believe that there is a need now to do changes within the party? So, for example, when you look at the people, Honorable Gregory Bowen, Dr. Clarice Modest Cohen, Ms. Bain, Mrs. Bain from St. Andrews, and so on. The people who have matured in politics for years, and people who ask the question, where is the succession for this party to gain acceptance among young people and say, yes, I'm energized by who I'm seeing?
Yeah, but let me just say this, because you're hitting something which is no stranger to the NNP. And as I told you, it was a party commission set up to do certain things, and it did. Yeah. And it's interesting that you make those observations. That's as much as I would comment on that. But let me just say this. This has happened before in our political history and our political culture. It has happened before. It's not anything new. Intergenerational change.
That's right.
Right? And this has happened. The crisis of leadership which afflicted the NDC for many years was not just a crisis of leadership of the NDC, you know. It's a crisis of leadership within the society. And NNP was not insulated against that crisis. It is just that it has a little more stability because it had been in office.
NNP that was saying that they're preparing and they have a succession plan and they have
well,
so
I'm
that the
saying,
party
look,
won't fall into that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying to you, this has happened before, right? We've seen this before, especially of a working class party. And it seems to be characteristic of a working class party based on how the working class party is structured.
But
because if we look at the rise and fall of Gary and Garyism, the 1951 revolution, led by Eric Matthew Gary, was the greatest social event, right, post-slavery and comparable to the period before slavery and 1795. They were then three high points in Grenada's history. The 1795 Federalist Revolution, right? The 1951, then the so-called emancipation by the British Parliament, and then, because it meant a continuation of aspects of slavery, within the Grenada polity, until the 1951 revolution came, right? Yet, what happened towards the end? Towards the end, the leader of the 1951 revolution became alienated from the mass. As a matter of fact, the revolutionaries, many of them were derived from Gary's base. Many of us derived from Gary's base.
Would you support Gary as a because now the government is considering establishing 3 to 5 national heroes. Would you support Eric Gary as a hero?
Well, we have to.
In view of all that happened.
Well, we have to make some determination about the criteria for national heroes.
Yeah.
So I don't know what the criteria is. Right? Now, if the criteria takes on board the good that you do and the negatives that you do, and the negatives balance off the good, do you look at an individual, for example, take a Fedon.
Yeah.
Fedon abolished slavery 40 years before the British Act of Parliament, right? The Fedonist Revolution.
Yeah.
Granted, he executed the governor and so on,
Yeah,
but Fedon's lieutenant was a slave. One of Fedon's slaves who Fedon liberated, a guy called Shadow. The anglicized word now is Shadow, up in Belvedere. You know, that's where Shadow was hung, because the British found him. Right? They captured him and they hung him there. And that's why the place was named after him.
Yeah.
So, depending on the criteria, I will make a judgment. Depending on the criteria, I'll make a judgment. Because I'm saying, yes, while Gary led the 1951 revolution, he turned tail on the revolution not too long thereafter.
Just so we have to take a break here. We have to go to our sponsors. We'll be right back just to continue. Viewers, please stay with us. We'll be right back.
The choice to finance your education is clear. Try the Grenada Development Bank Won't You Dare. Our special student loan was designed with care for your growth, development, and welfare. This is how champions are made. Take on that challenge. Don't ever be afraid. Our special student loan will come to your aid with 100% of your study costs being paid. Vulnerability is but a temporary condition, and conquering it is strictly ambition. You can secure victory despite your position with a loan for accommodation, books, and tuition. We see your potential. We notice your drive. So on your marks, get set. Let your dreams come alive. Don't let hurdles of doubt get in your way, because you are the future. Contact GDB today. Our special student loan is just one application away. Grenada Development Bank. Development through financing.
Concerned about your general health and wellness?
Do you need to know your complete blood count, lipid profile, or HbA1c?
Maybe you're an athlete or work in an environment that requires regular drug screening.
Interested in STI screening? What about renal, liver, or thyroid tests?
All these tests, plus hundreds more, are available at Allied Laboratories.
At Allied Laboratories, we are committed to providing the best service with accurate results. We now have 3 fully equipped locations to better serve you. You can contact our Grand Anse branch at 403-3488. You can contact our Grenville branch at 410-3488. Or you can contact our newest addition, the Guelph branch, at 404-3488. Or send us an email.
We're taking care of Grenada.
Welcome back to Community Forum. Co-host, your host Byron Campbell, and co-host Chris Dialli. And we're here with our special guest, Chester Humphrey. Chester, NDC administration has been in office now for 15 months.
Yeah.
They're
Short time.
Yeah, but they are boasting, they are talking about much accomplishments in areas of pension reform, pension payments, protecting sovereign lands, acquisition of lands for a new hospital, promoting a transformational agenda. What is your take so far? I know it's early time, but what's a trend you've seen? What's your preliminary analysis?
Well, to be objectively honest, the team has kept their hands on the tiller, and they are significant beneficiaries. They inherited a stable economy with the public finances in order, well and professionally managed, with strictures and law in place and so on to impose discipline on how public finances are handled. They have not altered course on that. They met a fully financed public sector investment program. A lot of government construction projects were, you know, it takes 36 to 40 months from the time you conceptualize, you put the designs down on paper, you go to the bank, you negotiate, or you go to beg for the money, and before you get boots on the ground. The 2008 NDC government never understood that lesson. So they kicked out CCC, and then had to come back to CCC and pay 2.5 times as much for the project, right? But at that time, the elections were done on them. So they
you
were
say
booted
this
out of
administration
office.
understands this?
Well, whether or not they understand it, I don't know. But what I'm saying, it seemed to me.
don't seem to see that they understand.
Yeah.
Huh?
The World Bank for Agriculture, 27 million, they announced it in the budget.
What it seems to me is that they may have learned, I'm not sure whether or not they've learned that lesson, but they have maintained some of the programs. Some other programs, they have been slow. I think the implementation rate, to my mind, is not impressive.
They have boasted that it's moved from the NNP of 37% to 80-90%. They're saying it's doubled.
Well, I don't know what the scientific evidence of that is.
But
I look at these things visually.
Yeah.
And the River Road project is stuck. Come heavy rains again, sections of River Road, and that project should have been completed. It's a good project. I know people were talking about bulldozing the wall and stopping the project.
Yeah.
For all practical purposes, the project has stopped.
Yeah.
Right? So that the last time there was a flooding, this year,
Yeah.
Yes,
earlier,
on this
and
year.
again, if we get major rain in October, you can expect the same thing is happening. I don't know to what extent and number. I know there was a lot of work lined up
Yeah.
The
for
Molineux Road is one.
for shifting
that's a technical issue,
bridges
yeah.
and dealing with the stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of that kind of
But
thing.
without going into details, just
So-
what's your sense of the leadership and the direction, the transformational agenda that you're hearing? Leadership.
Well, as I said to you, I have not seen anything transformational, all right, in my understanding of transformation. Remember, I come from the revolutionary background. And when we talked about transformation, we early days cited. Early days, I'm talking now about June, July, August of 1979, cited the international airport. Building that airport will transform Grenada economy. It will move it rapidly from this agrarian plantocratic economy, right, with all the vestiges of immediate post-slavery and that kind of thing, and all the inefficiencies, to a modern service economy, tourism oriented.
But they're
and
talking
leveraged.
about regularization of the public service. They've started that.
Well, yes, they have. So
they're
yes.
talking about new hospital, teaching hospital, investing over $90 million in the acquisition of lands. You're not counting these factors?
No, listen
Yes.
to me. I've heard declarations. Declarations.
Yeah.
The PRG announced in a rally somewhere in June that the international airport will be built. And you were there because you came back from Canada.
Yes, just
and
that.
before the year was ended, there were trucks on the port, there were things happening because we saw the airport as the key to transforming Grenada. No, if you say the hospital is the key for transforming, then you had to put your energies and things there.
Well, the first thing is the acquisition of the lands.
Well, I don't know. The lands acquired going down that river on the downside there in there's a flooding place there.
It's a large area, 90 acres,
85
85 acres.
So where is it? It's going to go on
I
that
don't know the specifics,
Well-
but I'm just saying they have initiated.
Yeah, but this is the point. But even before you buy the land, I mean, is this just a cabinet decision? What engineers were involved? What consultants were involved? Was PAHO involved? Because you don't just buy land. You first have to be clear on what kind of hospital, what kind of access, what kind of threats. Because we live in a hurricane, and in that flat area there, there's a floodplain.
I want to switch
And-
to
and-
NHI.
and
You are an integral part
Yes.
of NHI.
Yeah.
And we know the importance of healthcare and the cost of healthcare and what is happening internationally, not only locally. NHI has been in discussion, in my views, from NNP days to now, still in discussion. we can't see something definitive come out of NIS. And I heard in the throne speech something about a new consultant, or I could be wrong, or re-engaging the consultant. What is your take on NHI? Why do you think it's taken us that long?
Well, a combination of factors. One is COVID, which came down on us in a very unexpected way towards the end of 2019, and we went into lockdown in February, March of 2020. So that derailed everything. Massive amounts of money had to be shifted from other allocations to help to deal with the COVID business. So that derailed it. But because of COVID, right, we should have implemented NHI. In other words, immediately as we saw some break of sunlight in the whole COVID thing, we should have moved, and I believe that was a mistake made by us, quite frankly, given the fact that we now understanding several millions of dollars were just sitting there. We could have moved. And I had always argued, I was chair of the committee, and our presentation was that NHI be modular. Just as how NIS is modular. NIS started off with some limited benefits, right? It didn't include unemployed people. It didn't, it was limited in a certain way. And then over time, now we now have an unemployment component in it, right? And we recommended that the NIS had proven itself as a state institution to be trustworthy, that the people had confidence in it. We've never heard of a single case of corruption or ill spending or bad things, and the reason for that is how the NHI was constituted by the PRG, right? It did not, because the NIS, because let me tell you, other countries in the Caribbean, the NIS is in deep trouble. Barbados, for example, Barbados used the NIS as a treasury. In fact, they've wiped out a whole set of the debt, creating a whole big problem in Barbados right now with unions and so on up in arms. This could never have happened in Grenada. If you remember when the government said it wanted us to write off debt from the NIS, and we objected, we said, no, you can't write off the debt. What we could do is reschedule.
But there was an attempt to use NIS, when NIS was forced or encouraged to purchase government property for the government to raise money.
But you know what we did? We could not put a stop to those borrowings under the Nazenberg administration. Because if we didn't lend them the money, then our workers wouldn't get paid. It's very workers that we represented, so we were in a catch-22. So here's what we did. We said we're going to lend you the money, but we're not taking any more government people. Give us the property. And we had sections of Grandans Beach, right? And I believe it was...
That area right behind Umbrella.
Let me tell you, we crafted that whole thing, and Bert Patterson will know that, because he was one of the fiercest advocates, and we identified national assets, that we wanted to protect those assets from being divested into the private sector and taken away from the collective hands of Grenadians. And Grandans Beach was one of them. The parliamentary office was the next. So we decided now to take assets, not paper.
The drill yard is one of them.
Right. And where the Free West Indian was.
That's correct.
And that is how the NIS ended up with a lot of government property. Right, because we were faced with this.
Just we clearly run out of time, but one question
Run
I want
out
to
of
ask
time.
you. Because this program has, I know. Well, one of the issues, I mean, the UN has been, the UN 2020, 2023.
I am certain
has been,
after this program, when we leave here, what will replace us is some idiotic matter on the television.
But let me use the time constructively.
And here I would like to believe that we are addressing fundamental issues which affect us as a people.
It's important because in the UN...
No, but then you must negotiate.
I will do this.
Or ask me to come and negotiate for you with the owners of this. That because look, there must be a rule. But I want the public to join us in that campaign. Because there must be a rule for communication facilities like these to play a role in national development.
That's correct,
and it can't be that you give us an hour and when we walk off, the rest of the night is some nonsensical soap or some European or some other thing.
Your point would be taken, Chester. But I want to make a point here. Look, at the UN recently, I want to talk about Mia Motley and her speech to the UN and her...
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Would you support her?
Morris reincarnated.
Would you support her for the next General Secretary of the United Nations?
I don't know if she wants a job.
Yeah, she wants it.
She wants it.
She wants a job?
Yes.
Certainly will.
So my last question
And
to you is,
I hope that my Prime Minister supports her as well.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
by the way, let me say this.
I want to do the pedestrian cross.
Yeah, I'm coming. But let me just say this. The government's position
Yeah.
on a lot of the international issues
Yeah.
are correct, absolutely correct. Right? And again, it talks about a generational shift. I mean, our Prime Minister has been talking about reparations. I remember a Prime Minister you couldn't mention, and I could call his name Tillman Thomas, felt reparations was a stupid thing. It happened in the past, forget it.
Okay.
Right? And it took Ralph to put it on the agenda. And I'm happy that Grenada, through its Prime Minister, has been very consistent and forceful and brave enough to tell the British
Yes.
that they must apologize. And they must sit to the table to negotiate how they will compensate it, because this is not a one-off pay. Let me say this, the current world order was built on the enslavement of our forefathers. It is this enslavement of our forefathers that have set up this world order, and they've done everything to maintain it. Every time we have an opportunity to independently develop ourselves, they cut it off. Whether it's the citizen by investment, whether it's the offshore bank services, whatever. They want to maintain a relationship which they built during the slavery period.
Free trade.
The post-slavery period carries a lot of elements of slavery in terms of its economy and how they dominate us, how they dominate us and so on. And they will do everything, including overthrowing governments.
And they've done that.
And they've done that.
Yes.
I mean, look at what they're doing to Venezuela.
Yeah.
Look at what they're doing to Cuba.
Cuba, yeah.
Look at what they're doing to Cuba under this fallacious thing about Cuba as a state of terrorism. I mean, really, they don't even believe it themselves. They don't even believe it themselves. You know? And again, I'm coming back. There's a role for media houses like these in helping to positively educate our people on our history, on our future, and the things that we need to do.
Pedestrian cross.
Pedestrian crossing.
I want to talk about that. Because schools start back, we have people, Grenadian pedestrians believe that once they reach a crossing, they must just cross immediately. And there's structures on the cross, the design of the cross that says, the line before the cross, the solid line before the cross. If a vehicle crosses that, and you're on the cross and waiting the cross, you have to wait on the vehicle. Vice versa. If I see you on the cross before I get to that line, I have to allow you to cross.
Well, Chris, I left the GBSS more than 50 years ago. And prior to the GBSS, I was at the Wesleyan School, Wesley Hall. And during that time in primary school, the police will come to the school every so often and teach you about traffic. They will tell you, and up to today I do it. If I walk in the night, I don't put on anything black. I make sure I have something white.
Yeah.
Right? And they tell you, walk on the side where the vehicle isn't coming from the back of you.
Yeah.
So oncoming vehicle, you face the vehicle. And they teach you all of these things, right? Again, I come back to this television station. The worst organized division in the Royal Grenada Police Force is traffic. Right? They seldom implement the traffic law. They allow people to park on the side. There's a car garage on the sidewalk just up from here. I see it on mornings when I go to walk and I have to go in the road. It's literally garage there, and it's been there now for almost 2 years.
There's several around the island.
Right?
Actually.
So the police, why must there be 3 traffic wardens down at the roundabout near the Morris Bishop Highway? All on their phones, not paying any attention to traffic. Why is there no police in the Mount Hartman area? Why isn't the traffic wardens given motorpedes to drive around? Why are they not issuing more tickets? Why are there not more traffic courts?
Are you sure they can issue tickets? Remember, we had to pass the thing in Parliament.
Look, let me tell you. Traffic wardens is not a factor of the biblical tablet by Moses. It's a factor of Parliament passing laws. If the police believes that there are too many limitations, that they're not fully qualified, you make an amendment to the law. It's not magic. But I'm saying it's look, going up the lane, right? Our second industrial area is that Tempe area there, where that mill is. Any large vehicle or trailer that has to go to the other side of the tongue of St. George has to go up the lane. Physical planning, which again has been absent, right? There is a no parking sign. At times, that traffic, I stayed in that place there, that traffic, tied up in that traffic for 20 minutes, not a vehicle move, because there were people inside a business place. The sign said no parking and they parked there, but the police has done nothing to enforce the law.
Chester, I'm clearly running out of time. I've noticed, but I take your point very seriously. So bring to management to for an extension to this, that we require more time to really bring the issues that are important to, particularly to people's development and people's well-being, on the table. But let me give you 30 seconds to wrap up. Anything of importance you want to say before?
Well, Byron, man, there's so many things really that. All I just want to say, I just want to thank you for this opportunity you've talked. It's been a long time in coming, and we should do this a little bit more often. I mean, maybe twice a program. There's no reason why you can't have this program twice a week.
Yeah.
What could you have it twice a week?
To get us to it. But we get in there.
We get in there.
If you do, you do.
We started with no sponsors, and we now have a few. And we get in there. So as we grow, your wish.
And you don't pay me to come here. And
No,
I'm certain,
no,
certain that your listenership, your viewership will go up once you have me. So bring me back more.
Chester, thank you very much for being here.
Thanks, Byron.
We appreciate it, and we'll have you back. Viewers, that's all the time we have. We want to thank the technical staff, of course, for making this possible. Viewers, we'll see you next week at the same time. Community Forum. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Community Forum came to you in association with the Grenada Development Bank.
The choice to finance your education is clear. Try the Grenada Development Bank Won't You Dare. Our special student loan was designed with care for your growth, development, and welfare. This is how champions are made. Take on that challenge. Don't ever be afraid. Our special student loan will come to your aid with 100% of your study costs being paid. Vulnerability is but a temporary condition, and conquering it is strictly ambition. You can secure victory despite your position with a loan for accommodation, books, and tuition. We see your potential. We notice your drive. So on your marks, get set. Let your dreams come alive. Don't let hurdles of doubt get in your way, because you are the future. Contact GDB today. Our special student loan is just one application away. Grenada Development Bank. Development